The stream is about to start. We'll talk about code or whatever we'll talk about today. It's about to start, so please hang tight while I check that everything is okay. Sound check, camera check, lights check. How's my hair? Oh, wait, I don't have any hair. Maybe put some pants on and I am good to go. So get ready wherever you are, 'cause the stream is about to start. Get ready wherever you are, 'cause the stream is about to start. Hello and welcome to another meeting of the C++ Digital Signal Processing and sometimes JUCE study group. And it may seem like I am alone, but I am not. So hello everyone.
Hi.
Hi, how you doing? How's everyone doing?
Yeah, so we have Cwits and Bo on the line. And how about we start with Cwits? How are things going?
I have a question. Where is Fotis?
I don't know. He said that he would be here, but he hasn't showed up for the call. So, Fotis, if you're watching this, you can join the call anytime and we'll bring you into the stream.
Maybe he will join later.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Okay, so I got some progress with my program. As I said previous time, I got struggle with the prestigious time measurement. I somehow managed this to work fine, I assume. Okay, maybe. You want to see some code or no?
You decide. I always like to see code. It's one of my favorite things. But it's up to you.
I can share, but I assume that there
at the very
be...
least, you have to share with us what you did to fix up the timing of things. But yeah, let's see what you have.
So, do you see everything fine? Previous time I showed that I was used STD chrono module. I assume, I don't know how it called, and STD this thread and sleep 4, yes, for sleep for little pieces of time between every PPQN tick, like
hello.
Oh, Fotis, hi.
Hello.
I'm testing my other microphone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you and we can see you. And
awesome.
Finally, everyone can see you, by the way, because we are already streaming to YouTube, okay?
Hello, everyone. Hey, Internet.
So there was a thing that I have to how to say this, to count things every like PPQN is a thing called pulses per quarter node. Every modern DAW are running on 960 PPQN. Like Reaper, I assume other DAWs are also doing thing in the same way. So yeah, so you have to measure time around, how it was the formula, I don't remember, sorry.
How do you usually work on this? I tend to do my homework like hours, if not minutes, before the meeting. Do you usually work on this like a diligent person right after the meeting?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
I'm asking. You said that you don't remember it, and you don't remember something. And for me, I usually do my assignment. I usually do the thing that I'm going to talk about a couple hours or perhaps even a couple minutes before the meeting. So it's all very fresh in my head. But a diligent person would probably work on it throughout the weeks. So I'm asking, what is your work like? Do you usually work over the weeks, or do you just cram everything in the last hour?
Basically, the second option. So, sorry. So yeah, this is approximate formula for time, how much I have to sleep. Yeah, between those PQ and ticks, and for 120 BPM, it's around 521 microsecond. Yeah. So I decided to move from this thing to a more low-level Linux sleep thing as a nanosleep, which one is included from C time. Yeah, and I'm sleeping for I don't know, this is a very hard-coded thing. Yeah, and I'm not sure that this would work for every BPM in the world. But for 120, yeah, it works good. And I have compared with the metronome in my phone, and it seems like it metronome ticking correctly. So for now, this works, but I got a couple different problems with data race, I assume, because program crashing regularly, and I have to somehow manage this work more in a better way.
I do want to hear more about this issue, but before we get there, what was the issue with the chrono thing, and why did you have to go to nanosleep?
Basically, I don't know. Maybe I could use here nanoseconds, neither microseconds. I didn't try this, but maybe I have to.
I see. And what is exactly the difference between nanosleep? Is it lower level? Is it not portable, and that's why you didn't go for it first?
I assume that it's more low level than chrono thing. Yeah.
I see. And so what exactly is the solution? You're saying that you sleep for a certain period and that the duration of the sleep is going to determine your timing. So if for whatever reason something in the scheduler decides that it will not wake up your thread in time, because as far as I understand, every sleep function, if you say that you're going to sleep for 1 second, you're saying that you're going to be sleeping for at least 1 second. It's up to the scheduler to wake you up. So you may be sleeping for a second, but you may be sleeping for 1.5 seconds. And if the scheduler decides that it's not going to wake you up, then it could mess with the timing of your MIDI events.
Yeah, I assume it could. This is the reason why I'm here. Damn. Oh, 1 second, please. Take away 200s. Yes, because here I got. Oh, where it is? 1 second. here I got that formula, which one counts how much nanoseconds I have to sleep between those ticks. Yeah? It's using ppqn, bpm, and this is seconds per. This is microseconds per second. So yeah, I got here around 521, but for me in past, the biggest problem was that it is not precisely 521, but it has comma, there is and some stuff there. But I can't sleep less than one, the whole second, the whole time. I don't know.
A whole number, an integer.
Yeah, correctly. Then I became with the interesting thing that I am taking the time, checking, have here while loop, which one, checking if I have reached the time of next tick, and then I got callback. To be sure, this is code from Stack Overflow, so don't blame me. Yeah, but then I counting time of the next iteration and then go to sleep. But sleep is less than that amount of time that I have to sleep. And this while loop is waiting till event more precisely than sleeping.
I see. Okay, so the way that I understand, when you have to wait for a certain time before you can do an operation, so in your case, you have to wait until the next, I guess, tick of the clock. There are two ways to do it, or at least two ways. You can do a sleep. You can say, my thread of execution is going to go to sleep now, and I expect to be woken up by the scheduler at a certain time or after that. And the second way of waiting is something called a busy wait, where you just have a while loop that keeps spinning and checking if a certain condition has met. And it seems like you are doing both. You are doing a sleep to get in the ballpark, and then you are using the while loop, which is a busy wait, to get to the precise point. And you don't want to do just the busy wait because that takes a lot of resources to keep spinning and checking the steady clock again and again. Do you understand this right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
And this number 200 is the reason why I'm sleeping less, because as you said, scheduler can wake up thread later than I need to.
And there is still a chance that that could happen if the scheduler decides to wake you up more than 200, microseconds, I guess, after you asked it to, then you could still run into a situation where you would miss one of the ticks.
I assume that I can, but I didn't have that kind of situation for now, so we will see.
Clever. That's nice. And if that were to occur, then I guess you would just deliver an event late, and then you would catch up on the next one, right? You wouldn't desync for the rest of time.
I'm not sure. I didn't go so far, so I can't answer. But this one for now seems like working. Not good, but fine enough. And I got some tryings to get some sound with this thing, and it was working, but I got some data race problems and just runtime exceptions and other problems. Things.
So do you have a clue as to where this race condition could be coming from?
For now, no, but I'm trying to find why and where they occur.
How do you do that? Do you just stare at the code until something comes up, or do you have tools that you can use to debug, investigate, inspect execution?
Here's the one. So I'm just running things and testing it like in life. Yeah, here it is.
Oh, so there you go. You're using GDB, which is already a tool that helps a bit. You don't have to just stare at the code until something comes up.
Yes, of course. But for example, Backtrace not every time gives the correct answer where the problem occurs and how to fix it.
Yeah, the annoying thing about race conditions is that in many cases the error pops up in a place that is very far from the real cause, the real root of the problem.
Yes, and I think that's all that I have made from previous time.
That was very interesting. But there is one line there that I don't think we talked about. It said like, it works but takes 90% of the CPU. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. I don't remember why I wrote this line.
Okay.
There was some... Oh, maybe because I used to sleep less than this number, and the whole CPU consumption was here.
That makes sense. Yeah, busy wait is always something that takes a lot of resources.
So yeah, something like that.
All right then. All right. I'm glad to see that you have your mojo back to work on these things, because last time you were like, I'm taking some time off, and now you're back. And
back with a vengeance.
Yeah, and you always make a lot of progress. Sure. I'm really happy to see that.
Thank you.
Right, so let's get Fotis back on the screen. And how about you, Fotis? How are things going?
So yeah, I have bad news and good news. The bad news is that I had a very busy week because I moved back to my hometown, as you can see. And I also helped my brother move to a different apartment. So it was 8 straight days of packing things and moving things, both mine and my brother. So every bone in my body is hurting right now. But
I'm so sorry to hear that. Is it over?
Okay. Yeah, it's over. It's all good.
Great.
But you don't have to go to gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need to. Yeah. I miss gym. I should go sometime because I have some back problems. Anyway, so I didn't get the chance to study this hybrid sample synth method that I wanted to study, because I also had a soundtrack gig for a client that I still haven't finished. I'm making a soundtrack for a short film. But if you're interested, I can show you something else that I have found this week, an open source modular environment called Cardinal. And I'm going to show you how it works, how it compares to VCV Rack, and what it means for the future of open source modular environments and open source synths in general, and how VCV Rack has caused damage to the community and how Cardinal can fix it. Are you interested in this?
Yes, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
Oh, it sounds
Okay,
heavy.
I'm gonna share my screen with audio. For the first time, I'm using the desktop Skype instead of the browser-based, so I'm using less CPU. I'm running Bitwig Studio. Oh, wait, I'm gonna minimize this so now you can see Bitwig and Cardinal, right? So at first glance, this looks like VCV. This is a fork of VCV Rack that was made. Oh, I'm lagging. A fork of VCV Rack that was made by Felipe Coelho, who is the creator of Carla and KX Studio and other amazing open source projects. So this person has this great idea. He forked VCV Rack into a plugin form. I don't remember if it has a standalone. It's not the first time this happened. The first one was called VCVST Rack, but it has ceased development. And this one is very active, and I have been talking to the developer. And whenever I find a good open source module, I send it to him, and he implements it. He already did it with this one. It's called What the Rack, and it has 3 modules. But before I send you this. So this plugin has 2 modes of operation. It has a few default patches. Some of these are mine. These ones are default. They come with since you can get it from GitHub. I will post the link in the chat later. So these ones are completely playable with your MIDI. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, this is the thing with VCV Rack. It has always been this way. So in the first versions, VCV Rack had this external VST that was called VCV Bridge. But sometime during development, they stopped developing that bridge. So future versions of VCV Rack didn't have that. And you had to install a previous version just to get that DLL file and then go back to the latest version of VCV Rack and use it with that. And with VCV Rack 2, they added an option of buying the VCV bridge. And it's very expensive. I think it's $100. But this one is open source, it's free, and it has all of its models, all modules are open source. They're all from GitHub, and it has direct integration with your DAW. And what's great is that these sequenced modules, they work directly with your host's BPM and playback. So if you press play, works like a charm. So you don't have to do anything, because even with that VCV bridge, you had to do a lot of trickery in order to make sure that it worked well with your DAW. The other thing that's great about Cardinal is that even those that are open source, I spoke to Felipe when he wanted to port these, and he had to use different fonts because he wanted to make sure that these were also free and open source. And what this thing does, it has 3 modules. This one, you can place it somewhere where you have a lot of space, and you press this magical Super Mario button, and boom, you have a random selection of modules from the library, and you can do whatever you want with them. This is the first one, and the following version of Cardinal, which is coming very soon, will have another similar module that I asked Felipe to add. It's called Forcitan Modular, and I'm going to show it in the next video. The second one is called What the Jack, and it generates random cables every time you press it. And the third one, which is the most interesting and the easiest one to use if you're having trouble with modular synthesis and you want to learn, it's called What's the Mod, and it's similar to what the Jack, but it splits the modules into categories. So this is only generates oscillators. It's only, for some reason, my computer. Oh yeah, I forgot. My computer keyboard shortcuts don't work for some reason. Maybe it's because of Skype. But anyway, if you right click on this one and also on what
What does the
you have
WTF button do?
Oh yeah, I think this picks a random thing entirely. It's like the what the rack.
Okay.
The same thing, if I'm not mistaken. But if you right click and click randomize parameters, then the generated modules will also have randomized things, and you can randomize them even further if you do this. This may seem familiar to you, right, Bo? This is monitoring because
okay, cool. It's
because
one of my favorite plugins.
Yep, because there is this selection called rack windows. A person has ported some of these. He even created a new one called Rasp, which is a combination of no, is that it? Yeah, but I don't remember. Yeah, I think this combines DBS and the SLU 3. But yeah, it's a familiar environment. Now I'm going to reveal something about VCV Rack and the damage it has done, and it's not pretty. I'm going to show you a blog post by a former VCV developer called Aria Salvatrice. They are transgender. I don't know the pronouns, so I'm just gonna say they, them. So the blog post is called Why I'll Never Develop VCV Anymore, Aria. Yeah, I don't have the URL. Yeah, so these are the extremely awesome modules that Aria has created. Sorry, it lags a bit. This is a very long post. Oh, now I'm opening a few more.
And they were not developing VCV Rack. They were developing modules for VCV Rack.
Yeah, exactly. Because VCV depends heavily on third-party modules, because there are not many things that you can do with the built-in ones. By the way, if you're familiar with VCV, the built-in modules are called fundamental, but in Cardinal you have to click the distro, which is the plugin framework, and these are the same. They're just reskinned, and you even have a text editor, which has a lot of character.
Cute.
Anyway, then. The Aria Salvatrice modules are right here, and none of them are synths. They are all sequencer plugins. One of them is here. It's called Modulellus Salomonis Regis, and it can generate sequences. They are actually very brilliant. So this is what happened with VCV, and it's going to shock you. So Aria is describing in this long post the racism that they have encountered in the VCV forum, and also the ignorance by the VCV developer Andrew Belt. But the worst thing, the last straw, is that this crazy thing, if you are inactive for just 1 month, anyone can go ahead and release modules with your name. So anyone can steal. Absolutely no app store I have ever heard allows taking over names, but much less taking over humans' first and last name. It's infuriating what happens.
There is one, it's a package system that it doesn't allow you to take over names. It really is crazy to do that. But there is a package called Chocolate. It's for Windows applications. If you want to install Skype on Windows, you can use Chocolate to do that. If your package is inactive, your package, okay, not your user account, if your package is inactive for too long, Maybe newer versions of Skype came out and you are packaging Skype and you forgot to update or you're just abandoning the package. Then there is a process. It's not something that happens by default, but they approve of someone else taking over maintenance of that package. And if the original maintainer is not active anymore, they may do that without the original maintainer's approval. But I'm just pointing this out because I don't know if people tried to make the argument that VCV Rack was along the same lines. It was just trying to make sure that all the packages were maintained and active. But if that's the case, I think that they should be doing it the Chocolate way, not the way that it seems like VCV is doing.
Yeah,
but I cannot speak of this firsthand because I have never published a VCV package or module myself. So I don't know exactly how this pans out. I'm just taking... I also read Aria's post and I'm just taking it at face value.
Yeah, me too. So, and the crazy thing is that VCV, the code is open source, but the software is trying to monetize these modules. They have a shop, and Aria has taken off the modules from the shop after this happened, but they allowed them to be released under Cardinal, except for one module, which is PT. It's because one specific module that Aria created required an internet connection, and Cardinal only works in offline, which I completely respect. But what that module did was it would download some fortunes from a server, and it would use them to randomize your sequences. So after this happened, Aria is thinking of actually using Unity or Unreal Engine to actually create a sequencer. So stop laughing, please. I'm serious. I'm going to use a video game engine. I like this idea of actually using a game engine to create a sequencer. It should be good, but now that Cardinal is using these modules with Aria's blessing, we can see how further we can take this. And maybe I'm thinking of using Cardinal as a playground, because I'm already starting to learning a few more things about modular synthesis and sequencing. And so I was thinking of maybe prototyping some things here. Again, it goes to show that I'm avoiding how to code again. But I have some news for you. So now that I moved to my hometown, I looked at my library and I discovered that I have a C++ book. I don't remember if it's mine or my brother's. It's in Greek, but it should make for some nice reading. And I also found some tutorials that I'm going to share with the group sometime later.
Okay. Just make sure that the book is relatively recent, because C++ has changed quite a bit in the recent years, and you don't want to teach yourself the old practices and then have to relearn stuff.
Yeah, I'll have to check on that front. So yeah, I don't have to show anything else.
Yeah, but I do have more questions about Cardinal. I guess the biggest is, how do they plan on solving these community issues that arose in the VCV Rack community?
Well, first of all, they only use open source modules, so they're staying clear as far as monetized modules or anything else is concerned. Also, like I said, Felipe is very easy to reach out and very helpful. And if you have any questions, you can raise them on the GitHub issues page, and he will respond almost immediately. And also, like I said, I told him to, when I find some modules that I like, I send them to his way, and he will implement it as well as he thinks they're suitable. And also, I believe that since all of this is happening directly in GitHub, and there is no such thing as a VCV shop or a forum or something, everything is open source, not just the plugin. You can see anything. There are no shady practices because I've seen in the VCV forum, sometimes they hide things that they don't like, even if you are. Aria explains that in the post as well. But yeah, I believe that Cardinal is a nice thing for the future. Do you have any questions? More questions?
I do, actually. So they don't have any plan on monetizing modules. Do they have any plans on monetizing parts of the infrastructure in the same way that the VCV Rack VST version is a paid product?
No, I don't think so. Felipe, I think, works directly with donations because all of his projects, including Carla and KX Studio, all of them are for free. I think he has very few monetized things, and I doubt he's going to monetize. But if he does, I will let you know.
So when you're downloading Cardinal, you're also getting all of these modules.
Yep, all of them are pre-installed, all of them.
Yeah, so it seems like from a user's perspective, it makes a lot more sense because you don't have to go around shopping for modules and it loads in any DAW. So it seems like Cardinal already has a leg up VCV.
Exactly, and the thing is that VCV does have a lot of the same free open source modules, but they don't come with the installation. You have to download them manually from inside VCV. And it is a bit cumbersome method. You have to go to the website and you have to subscribe to a developer, and then you have to go to, there is a separate setting here that says update, and it shows you a list of the developers, and then you have to click to the developer that you subscribed on the website, and then you have to wait for the modules to download, and then you have to, if you've installed a few modules at once, then you have to turn off the VCV Rack and then run it again so the plugins are installed. But yeah, here you have everything. And when Felipe adds a new module, it will come pre-installed in the next build of Cardinal. So that's another plus.
Yeah, awesome. Great to know. So yeah, was there something else that you were going to talk about?
No, sorry, I don't have anything else.
All right. So that was interesting. And
I'm going to turn off my sharing.
Okay. So I guess I will do a quick update on my side. I mostly read a book that I kind of mentioned in a previous stream, but not in a previous meeting. It is called A Tour of C++. It is written by the creator of C++. And that's because my goal for this meeting was to learn more about C++. So I'm almost halfway through the book or a little past that. And I can recommend, it's a good book, but it is for a very specific audience. So you will want to learn C++ by reading A Tour of C++ if you already have some experience with other programming languages, and if you have even some experience with the design of programming languages, because the book is written by the author of C++, so he is a programming language designer, and he does communicate in some parts, not always, not the whole book, but in some parts of the book, he communicates in terms using the jargon of programming language designers. Now, it so happens that I have been in programming language theory for almost 10 years at this point, so it is great because concepts that other people would have to explain in many pages, it just gives you the keyword that people in the field know. And with like 200 pages, you go from knowing very little about C++ to knowing our way around. After having read half of the book, I can read most of the boilerplate that comes with JUCE. I can navigate the JUCE implementation itself. For instance, I was interested in knowing how JUCE implemented the waveform display. I was able to read and make sense of that code. All the weird symbols started to fall into place for me. So that's the bulk of my update. I am reading a book, and then I will have to start applying my knowledge on the Automixer, but that will come next meeting.
Okay, can you please share book?
Sorry, what's that?
Can you please share book?
Oh,
book.
yeah.
You want to see the cover
Or
or something?
link or cover?
Yeah. I can do that. I will put it on the notes for this episode. How about that?
Okay,
We have
sure.
a GitHub where I have notes for all the meetings, and I can put a link to the book there. And another nice thing about the book is that I was mentioning how C++ has changed in the recent years, and you want to know about the latest. And the book covers, it has been released in 2018. It does cover updates up to C++ 17, and it mentions things that will come later, like C++ 20. And these things are already supported in many compilers, in Xcode, in Visual Studio. So you can already use some of the features, and then you probably want some supplementary material to brush up on the latest, really the latest things. But it does talk about things like modules and things that come in the latest versions of C++. So we got that base covered as well. It's not teaching outdated C++.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it for my update. But now I want to hear from Mo and
Yes.
what he's up to.
So I've been doing a lot of tutorials. Some of them have been the JUCE tutorials that Joshua have produced and are uploaded to YouTube. And I'm on number 14 at the moment, but I got stuck the other day and it just won't compile and I don't know what's wrong. So you still have the shared screen, Leandro?
Yeah, you have to share your screen again, because when someone else shared their screen, it stopped your screen sharing.
Can you see it?
Yes.
So, well, I'm basically stuck. It won't compile.
Okay. Can you give us some feedback on, some backstory, actually? Can you give us some backstory?
So-
What did you do? What are you trying to do? What buttons did you press before we got here?
The compile button.
There should be just one semicolon, not two.
Yeah,
Where is
so
that?
there is
Between
there are two syntax
custom
problems they can
L
spot.
and F and
Semicolon or
public
colon?
colon. Sorry. Between
Uh,
custom L and F and public.
All right.
Yeah. No?
Another error? No? Expected class name?
I don't think that semicolon at the end of the line belongs there.
No, that was actually me trying something. Joshua didn't have that. But I think he actually had like two semicolons colons here. But this is constantly popping up. Expected class name. I have no idea what that is.
Then there is no class like in a JUCE namespace like a custom L and F v4. You have to write their existent class name.
Sure. In which of the files?
See, that's why I asked for some backstory. How did we get this code that is on the screen right now? Where is it from?
Yeah, so, holy moly, what happened?
Don't worry, I have a limiter.
At
least-
Oh, good.
They stream didn't hear that.
Freakishly loud. So I started off with the JUCE framework and just followed Joshua's instructions.
Okay.
Started a new file with, hang on a bit, it was it module something? And this tutorial is supposed to teach you how to change the graphics for a simple slider, a rotary slider.
Okay, and is it a plugin or is it a standalone application?
I haven't gotten that far.
Okay.
I still haven't. It still won't produce a plugin.
Yeah, but I'm asking, when you created this in Producer, you first open Producer and you say new project. That is going to ask you what kind of project you are building.
So that would be let me try. I think it would be a GUI, something.
Okay. So it's a standalone application. You can see that it's under application, not under plugin, which is a little bit below. So what you're doing is you're building an application that is not going to be loaded into a digital audio workstation. It's just going to be a standalone app. Okay. That's just good to know, but it probably has nothing to do with the error that you're running into.
Yeah, because I couldn't compile a plugin, but that was maybe the issue in another tutorial. Is because I created a standalone application, I guess.
Okay, so you went in Producer, you started a project that is a standalone application, and then there is this stylesheet.h. Did you write it? It seems like you did, because it has your name on it, but that may be auto-generated? I don't know.
No, Producer produced it. So JUCE produced it.
Okay. So when you're saying class, custom, LNF, and then column public JUCE, custom LNF, did JUCE Producer produce that, or did you write that code?
That was me writing it per instruction from Joshua's tutorial. And I think they're in... where is his style sheet? Where the frick is it? So here's my custom LNF.
Okay. So I guess the first thing is to determine or try to figure out if this custom LNF is probably stands for look and feel, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know how to define a custom look and feel in JUCE. But my question, I guess, is this custom LNF thing something that JUCE is supposed to have provided or something that you were supposed to have implemented?
So this is a default thing, set default look and feel, I guess. If I would start typing this, it will pop up, right?
Yeah.
Set default look and feel, right?
Yeah.
Like this. Look and feel. My default. Hang on a bit. So that, and then I would type in this as the parameter for it.
Yeah, so you have your own custom look and feel somewhere. So somewhere else in the code, you must be defining this variable my custom LNF, probably in main component.h. Yeah, there it is. Line 24 or 23. Yeah, and 23. Also
including stylesheets.h.
Sorry, Cwits?
And also including stylesheet.h, where is defined your custom
LNF. That's the class, right?
But you want to make that class on a base of different already written class, which is provided by JUCE, which is called look and feel, correctly?
Okay, so
so you have to change. No. You have to change after colon public JUCE colon, and there you have to write look and feel as instead of custom LNF v4.
Okay.
If I understood everything correctly.
Look and feel.
Because look and feel is already existent class of JUCE namespace.
Yeah? So what are the different versions of it?
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I think I can explain
what's going on. I'll
Sure.
give it a try. I'll try to explain what's going on, okay? So here's something that I found. Let me see if this is going to show up on the screen as it should. Hang on. Here we are. Okay, so this is what I found. This is the JUCE documentation.
Yeah.
And in here, they will document every feature in JUCE. I just Googled for look and feel version 4 and I found this. This is a diagram that relates all the classes that have to do with look and feel. And a class...
That's a lot of classes.
It's a lot of classes, yes. Oh, and Fasces is not showing up here, so let me fix that. So,
Yeah.
classes, in essence, are just data structures, so a bunch of values, as well as some functions. They are called member functions in C++, but it's just a bunch of values and a bunch of functions that manipulate the values. That's just what a class is. And classes can relate to another by extension or inheritance. And that's what the arrow means. So why would you want to relate classes this way? There are various reasons, but for the most part, you want to extend or change the way that a class works. And this is exactly what's happening here. So I guess for this, you can ignore everything on the left and just concentrate on these 4 things here on the right. So there was, back in the day, probably, just guessing here, but by the look of it, it seems like back in the day, there was a class called look and feel. And then they needed to extend the class in a way that would not be compatible with previous existing code. It would break existing code. For whatever reason, they had to rename a variable, they had to remove a function, whatever. They needed to introduce a change that would be backwards incompatible. So what they did is they extended look and feel with look and feel version 2. And it's the JUCE style from around 2008. And they did it again in 2013 and did it again in 2017. So existing code would continue to work even if you have updated JUCE because you were using look and feel. And then when look and feel version 2 came out, okay, your code is still relying on the old version. Your code still works. Even though they have introduced a breaking change, it doesn't really break your code. You have to opt in the latest version. And you can see that it's even talking about here about the subclass. Subclass in the sense of it is inheriting from or extending the original look and feel. So this is just a weird mechanism to introduce changes that would otherwise break existing code. That's why there are 4 versions of this class.
All right.
So that's one part of the story. Sorry, go ahead. Cwits, you were saying?
No, just.
Okay, so that's why there are 4 versions of this class. But then there is the question of, okay, so this class is going to have, we are actually on the documentation for it. So it is going to have a bunch of fields, a bunch of data. It's a data structure, so it's going to have a bunch of values, and it's going to have a bunch of functions that make things happen with these values, like drawing things on the screen, perhaps, and positioning things, that sort of thing. Okay, so how do you use this class? How do you actually have something that you can position? How do you create stuff? How do you get colors? How do you set colors? Well, there are different ways to use a class. One way to use a class is to just create an instance of that class, or to create an object based on the class. So you can think of this class as the definition of what a look and feel should be, and then an object is an instance, something that you can actually call functions on. And that's one way of using a class, and that's the most common way of using a class. Most times when you're using a class, you will use it by instantiating it. And you will have an example of that in your code, actually. We saw a place where you had something like look and feel, and I guess it was your look and feel. So it was my custom look and feel, and then a variable name like my custom look and feel, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is creating an object called this, and I intentionally gave a different name. So this is an object of that class, and this is you using a class that way. But there is another way that you can use a class, and that is to extend it. So you can think of this diagram again. You're extending stuff. You would be creating another block that is your custom look and feel, and there would be an arrow from that block up here. And there are many places in the JUCE framework where you use stuff by extending it. Look and feel seems to be one place, and also just the main processor, the audio processor, the thing that takes samples and produces samples, you use that in JUCE by extending part of the framework. So you can think of the JUCE framework as all this functionality that is bundled, and the way that you use that functionality is by extending it, as if you were creating an extra part of the framework, but that extra part of the framework is now your application. So that's what these versions are. They're extensions, and your look and feel will be just another extension of that. Mm-hmm. And the way that you write this in C++, the way that the syntax for doing this is you want to create a class. Again, a class is just a data structure. So some fields in here, like suppose there is an integer for the X position and an integer for the Y position, let's say. And maybe a color, and perhaps you have an integer for the red, green, and blue. So just fields like that, and some functions that act on the fields. So perhaps you would have an integer magnitude that would compute the magnitude of the X and Y. So probably something like X squared times or plus Y squared, take the square root of that. Just giving this as an example of a function that acts on the values. So that's what the class is. Now you have to have a name for your class. So it can be like my custom look and feel. And you want your class to extend as if it was, I guess, an extension of the framework. And you want it to extend the JUCE look and feel. How do you say that? Well, you put a column, you say public, for the most part. We don't have to worry about why you would want otherwise. And then you give it...
Sorry, Bo, could you please double click on the Leandro window so you can maximize it? Because we can only see a little thumbnail.
Oh yeah, because Bo is sharing his screen so we can see what he's seeing.
I think there is an option that says color view. It's
okay.
On the top right that says Visa.
Top right of the... All right.
Window, yeah, that one.
Okay. Föredragshållare vi. No.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, but if Leandro talks, then his window will be maximized. So Leandro, please continue.
All right. Okay, I will. And and now my window is maximized, so it worked. Great. Okay, so as I was saying, you are defining your class and you're extending from somewhere. In fact, if we were to look at the implementation of look and feel itself, it would have a syntax pretty similar to this, and it would be saying extends look and feel version 3. But we are here in the business of extending look and feel version 4. So you can just go and extend look and feel version 4 like that, or 4 like that. And then there is just one extra piece of syntax for us to understand before we get to the line that you had on your Xcode. And that is this name, look and feel, for instance, is super generic. JUCE may talk about a look and feel, and maybe your plugin is about how you look and how you feel. And you would have a class called look and feel. And then you would talk to that class and you would say your problems, and the class would know how you feel, and the class would look at you in the eye, and it would know how you look. So perhaps you want to have another class called look and feel in your system, and you don't want to necessarily clash with the look and feel from JUCE. Now, what you could do, and what I do in JS Effects, for instance, is I just prefix with something. Like in my JS Effects stuff, I prefix with an underscore. Some people may prefix with their names, whatever. And that's exactly what JUCE does. It prefixes.
Okay.
All classes in JUCE are going to prefix like that. Okay, so when you're oh, Safari just crashed. When you're using, oh, look at that, look and feel version 2, and then there is 1 and 3 inheriting from that. That does not seem right. Right, so coming back to here. Well, okay, so for us using the JUCE framework, it's nice that JUCE is namespacing things, that JUCE is putting this prefix everywhere, because then we can have our own classes with names that we like. And if JUCE happens to have a class with the same name, that's JUCE's silly problem. Okay, we like the namespace thing. But now think about the perspective of the JUCE developers themselves. You actually see this in my JS Effects library a lot. There is a lot of underscores in there. Because I am using underscores to prefix everything, there is a lot of underscores in there. I can open up my library in JS Effects. And I'm doing this because I know that Bo follows along with the development, so probably that will make sense to him. So you will see here a lot of underscores. And that can be annoying. Wouldn't it be nice for the JUCE developers to be able to say, I am developing the JUCE framework. When I say look and feel, it is my look and feel. It's not someone else's. That would be nice. It could save a lot of repetition and noise in the code. So that's why in C++, there isn't just a way of a convention of putting a prefix on a name of a class. You can actually use this other symbol. And this symbol is special. It's not really part of the name. It is a special prefix because the language knows about it. C++ knows that this is a namespace in C++. It knows the meaning of this operator. And it may be a little unfortunate that here we have 2 columns and here we have 1 column, and it can be confusing, like as if this was just 2 of that. But despite being the same symbol, they are completely unrelated. Apples and oranges here, completely unrelated. This is part of saying extends or inherits from, or the class on the left is actually an extension of the class on the right. So that's what this column means. This column means namespace. Completely different concept. No relationship whatsoever. It's just a prefix, so to speak. But the advantage of having this special symbol as the separator for the prefix, as opposed to this, which is not a special symbol, the advantage of having this special symbol as part of the prefix or namespace is that when you are the JUCE developers, you can say something like using JUCE, and then anywhere where you start typing look and feel, you don't have to be explicit about being in the JUCE namespace. You just said, okay, I am using JUCE. I am developing JUCE. When I say a class, I mean the class in the JUCE namespace. And in some cases, you're not even the developer of JUCE. You just know that you're going to be using stuff from JUCE all over the place. So you say, okay, I am using JUCE. If I say a name, I mean the name in the JUCE namespace. And I will just make sure that I don't pick a name that is already in the namespace, so things will not clash. I'm taking on that responsibility. And you may not see that with JUCE a whole lot, but for sure, people will do that a lot to the standard library, because in the standard library, you see things like this all the time. And then people say, okay, I don't want to have to write standard library everywhere. I would just say using the standard library. And they did not have to namespace everything. So now this line makes more sense, I suppose, right? You are defining a data structure with a bunch of fields and some functions. You want your data structure and functions to be an extension of some part of the framework. And that's a way of using the framework, so to speak.
Right.
Right. So we are back to your screen, Bo.
Sure. I noticed something. Now that I retyped this, it turned orange. It used to be white. So that's just and the error is gone.
Yeah. So now this line reads okay, and there is only one other complaint on line 18 saying expected a semicolon. So that's easy. And there you have it.
So it should run now.
Well, perhaps not.
No. This was, remember the last stream we had? I had this weird error, and all I needed to do was to comment it out, and then sort of remove the comment, and the error was gone. This is kind of similar. I just sort of deleted the text and then rewrote it. Why? Stop it now.
Yeah, it seems to be working. It's saying compiling. And it succeeded. And it even started.
Yeah, it's a gray space.
Yeah, and you can see that it's a standalone application. It's not part of a DAW. You're not loading this as a plugin.
Okay. How can I see that?
Well, it is a standalone application. Look on the upper left on your Mac, and it says Look and Feel Demo. That's an application.
Right.
If you make the dock
this was...
appear, put your cursor on the bottom of the screen for the dock to appear.
Yeah, so I thought this was part of the console, but so that's an actual, all right.
Yeah. Put your cursor on the bottom of the screen for the dock to show up.
Okay, this one.
Yeah, and you can see in there your application, that one. Yeah, it's an application, just like Skype is an application.
All right, cool. Excellent. Well, job done.
Well, I think so, but this is just a skeleton. Now you have to actually define the look and feel.
Yeah, because I think this is like 10 minutes into the tutorial. Then I got stuck. It wouldn't compile.
Fair. And I do have a question about the code that I see on the screen. On the left pane, where it lists all the files and whatnot, the main CPP and the style sheet CPP, as well as the main component and the style sheet.h, they are in different directories.
Yeah.
Is that on purpose? It looks strange to me. It looks as if the style sheet was supposed to be in the source folder, but it's not.
Yeah, this is what JUCE produced. So...
Okay, then.
I've noticed that. I've done a couple of tutorials now. I've noticed that as well. So sometimes they're in the source folder and sometimes they're split up in source and that the sort of parent folder for that one.
Yeah, so I guess don't touch it, but it is odd.
Yeah, if
it's
it ain't
strange.
broke, don't fix it. I have no idea why.
All right, and other than that, how are the tutorials going? I mean, you already have created an application and it wasn't compiling, but did you go over the code that was generated? For instance, this file that you have in front of you right now, do you understand what it's doing?
No, well, kind of. It's so... I've noticed, like I said last time, I've done a bunch of different C++ things, and they're all in one file. So the basic sort of, here's how you know, hello world, print something, do simple math operations and stuff. But this is the step between those ones and this one is ginormous. With the syntax and with the splitting of the files, I get the splitting of the files, so it's sort of separating it for ease of navigation, etc., and decluttering it.
That's not quite the reason, as far as I understand, actually. I mean, the separation of main CPP versus main component CPP and style sheet CPP, that makes sense to me. Because you may be interested in the style sheet, so you will not go into main.cpp. And then you have one place where your styles are. That makes sense. But that separation between CPP and .h files, that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. So I think I understand why it exists, and I think I even understand that it's going away. And the reason why it exists has to do with the way that your code is transformed into an application. So the way that Xcode compiles your code. The .h file is necessary anywhere where you want to use some other class. So for instance, in the file in front of you, you are defining functions for the main component class. So you want to have access to the definition of the main component class, which happens to be in the header file. So you include that header file. That's the first line that we see on the screen. Mm-hmm. And then if another part of the system wants to use the main component, that other part of the system will also include the main component.h. Now here comes the very silly thing that made sense back when C and C++ was invented, but that doesn't really make a lot of sense today. The silly thing is, this main component.h file, you can reason about it as if it was copy and pasted, as if you went into the main component.h file, copy the whole file, and paste it into where it was included. Which means that this file will be compiled again and again. Now, there are more technical details to talk about. There is this line pragma once. I will not get into that. It's just a way of making one part of the system available to other files. And because it will be compiled again and again, you don't want your CPP file, the entirety of the contents of the CPP file, to be in the header file. Because you want your header files to be as small as they can be, since they're going to be recompiled so often. That's one of the reasons, not necessarily the major reason, but it's one of the reasons why people separate CPP and header files. There may be other reasons, like you may want, for instance, the standard library is the same in Xcode and Visual Studio and GCC and whatnot. So you may want your header files to be the same because the way you use the functions is the same, but the implementations are different. Xcode is not going to implement a function the same way that Visual Studio does. So there are other reasons, but the main actual reason, it seems to be historical. This weird quirk of the compiler and the way that it sort of copy and pasted code, so to speak. And in fact, I don't think I like this too much, because then if you want to add a new function to a class, you have to go to the header file and declare, and then go to the CPP file and implement. If you want to add a field, you are in the middle of implementing a function, and then you realize that you need another variable, another member variable. So for instance, your line 23 has a member variable, and you need another one of those. You have to jump into the header file and do that. So it can be very annoying. I prefer the principle of locality, where everything that is related is on the same place. And it seems like the developers of C++, the designers of C++ seem to agree with me, because they are introducing modules. And that's a different way of structuring your code. It's backwards compatible, so you can still use the includes. But when you start using modules, the whole thing is in one file. And the compiler is smart enough to not recompile things when it doesn't have to. So you don't need to separate your implementation between headers and CPP files. So, yeah.
Yeah, and the more I use, the more I code in this, the more sense JSFX makes. It's so simple.
Yeah.
It's so easy to use. It's yeah.
Yeah, and another thing to be said about the code that you have there is that because you created it as a standalone GUI app,
Yeah.
it does not have in this boilerplate, in this code that we are looking at right now, it doesn't have the audio processing part of it. This is only the visuals. So you can think of this whole project as if it was just the @GFX part of a JSFX plugin. It's just the user interface. No sample section.
No. Yeah, no init, no sample, no block.
Exactly.
Cool. Do you have any further questions, Leandro?
No, I think it's time for us to wrap up. What do you all think?
Because I have one further question.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm using an old version of Xcode that I installed like years back. So I think it's like 9 something. And it's like currently on 14 right now, or what are you guys using?
I
Visual
will
Studio
fire
or
it up
Xcode?
right now.
I installed this like way back.
And how did you install it? Because there are 2 ways that I know of to install
I don't even
Xcode.
remember.
Okay.
I don't remember. I was doing it for a different project. I think you needed to run Wine or something. Run the layer Windows applications.
I see. Yeah, so to answer your question, I am running Xcode 13.4.
Okay.
And there are 2 ways that I know of to install Xcode. You can go to the App Store and install Xcode.
Yeah.
Or you can go to the Apple developers website and download and install Xcode.
Oh, cool.
I installed using the App Store, so I don't have to worry about updates. It auto updates, or at least it asks me to update. And I click on a button saying yes. I will do it tonight.
Yeah, because I read the reviews of the 14, and this might be my superstition or might not be, but they got some really bad reviews, and they wanted the version 13 back. So, fair warning. You might want to check that. No, and also my system sort of automatically updated the other week, and I need to completely do a reboot, sort of clean my hard drive and start all over again, because it's my MacBook is effed up from the last update.
But the other thing is, if you download, if you install Xcode this other way by going to the Apple developers website and downloading from there, I don't know if it auto updates or not. It might, but I don't know if it does.
Neither do I. I just need to be really careful with all the sort of messages from Apple that pop up.
I don't know. I'm looking here and I cannot seem to find any Xcode 14. The latest version, even on third-party websites, because maybe Apple rolled back some latest update or whatnot, but even on other websites, I only see up to Xcode 13.4, and that was released 1 week ago on the 16th.
Okay.
So it was last Monday.
Okay. I mean, it might have been 13. I'm not sure. Maybe 2 weeks ago that I checked this, and it had some really, really bad reviews.
And what were the issues?
It didn't work. They moved stuff and it was buggy, and so that might be the reason that there's a new version out so quickly, so recently.
I see. All right. I tend to just update the software and then let the bugs come and I report them. But I know it can be a hassle.
Yeah, but my MacBook is so old. It's like falling apart, more or less. I wouldn't say falling apart, but it's like really struggling just running Skype. And the main crux is the system, the operating system.
Yeah, doing a clean install might help.
Yeah, I'm going to do a complete reboot with a clean out the hard drive and clean install. And the biggest issue is that a lot of, like most of my plugins stopped working. So, which is a real pain in the wrong area.
I start thinking that that's cool that I'm not using Mac and I don't know what is Xcode and stuff.
Yeah.
Me neither. I'm using Visual Studio.
Yeah, well, I guess if you are just doing it for fun and whatnot, it makes sense to just support the platforms that you care about. But if you want to do, for instance, I am interested in having my Automixer work for more people. So it is inevitable that you will have to dive into all the platforms. And you may not go and install Xcode and Visual Studio, or you may just install the developer tools and not use the IDE. So, I mean, just the compiler and whatnot. But don't use the IDE. But I think it makes sense to just bite the bullet and just have all the operating systems. I have a Windows machine, a Mac, and a Linux machine because I want to be able to test on all the platforms. It's just the nature of the game. If you are developing software and you want to make your software accessible to most people, that question of, are you using a Mac or a PC? The answer must always be all of them. Yes, I use all of them.
Yeah. Or you can use a virtual machine.
Yeah, there are plenty of solutions. I don't think you can run macOS on a virtual machine. I think you have to buy the piece of hardware, but still, there is no way around it. There is only so much you can do with emulation, and sometimes you just have to go and install the tools, even if you don't like them.
Yeah, but my newest computer is actually a PC where I use where I do the other C++ tutorials, and I'm using code blocks as an IDE, and it's way slimmer than Visual Studio.
Yeah, and JUCE happens to support it.
JUCE supports code blocks?
I think so, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Go look in the producer. I'm not sure if it's just... I may be misremembering this, but I think it may support code blocks only on Linux.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's there. Take a look at the exporters there. You may find code blocks in there.
All right. The thing is, I don't like my PC. The keyboard is so weird.
You'll get used to it.
No, that's the thing. I've had it for like 3 years. I haven't gotten used to it.
Oh.
All right, everyone. I think it's time for us to wrap up. I do want to say hello to Tail, who was or is watching right now. So it's great to have you here.
Hey, Theo.
I'm looking forward to having you on the meeting at some point to help us out, because you have a lot of experience doing all this. Right, so let's wrap up. Thank you very much, you all, for being here with me.
Thank you, Leandro.
It is always a delight to see what you are up to.
I would like to say a few words about what I'm going to do in the next meeting.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, but first I forgot to say about Cardinal that the VST3 is still experimental. I had no problem running it with Bitwig or Reaper, but I had problems with it with Ableton, and other users have reported it as well. So if you're having trouble, just use the VST2 instead. Now, what I'm going to do for the next meeting is I'm going to do what I planned to do for this one, which is to investigate the hybrid sampled / synthesis technique, because I really need it for the next version of my drum plugin, and I have to figure out how to do that in JUCE and C++ in general, because there is a lot of untapped potential in combining samples with synths, as I have said in previous meetings as well. And also I'm going to read that book that I said, because even if it's outdated, it's going to give me a general idea of what C++ is about. And thanks to you guys, I'm already starting to get a slight grasp of what it's all about. So thank you all for this. And if I see anything more interesting, I'm be sure to post it in the Discord or in the GitHub documentation.
All right, awesome. And yeah, I guess that's it. I see you all 2 weeks from now, perhaps on Tuesday, maybe on Wednesday. We never know. It's always a fun surprise.
Yeah.
It's a variable.
Yeah. All right. So let's get out of here. Bye, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you for watching the stream. You know how great it has been. Or maybe it sucked, and I am glad that you stuck with me. And soon we'll all will be back together for some more coding or talking or chilling. The next time I'll be streaming.